So marketing for law firms goes back as long as you've been in the business, and both have been in there for quite some time. So how do people avoid hiring a bad lawyer because of slick marketing and because there's a lot out there? There's some great catchphrases. There's make one call. There's the bigger is better. But neither one of those are making the person you're calling on the other end of the line a good lawyer.
Yeah, and this is a delicate topic for folks who are doing a show that runs on a radio station that relies on advertising revenues, when we know that the big firms are some of the big advertisers, certainly on the sister station of The Extra.
Yeah, for the Fan.
Ray and I were the only lawyers on 680 The Fan for years. It was just us. And now, I've joked around, but we've seen so many lawyers both come and go, sticking their toe in the water, and some have stuck around, so it's a delicate subject for the business that relies on advertising revenue. But we live in a world where it's so easy to create a perception of yourself without there being any substance to it. When it comes to legal advertising, all you need is money. Underlying this, what the public doesn't know is that the money that goes into advertising is rarely money that's paid directly out of the pockets of the lawyers who are doing the advertising. There are banks that cater specifically to lawyers who will finance your entire advertising campaign, essentially taking liens against the individual cases and potentially even having the interest on those loans charged against individual cases where the clients themselves are paying it. It's an insidious way for anybody to just get the word out there that makes it appear like I'm a lawyer of substance and a lawyer of quality. And it used to be that in order to put yourself out there as a lawyer of substance and quality, you actually had to have substance and quality behind you.
Not to get too old school about it, but it used to be if you needed a lawyer, you would ask your friend or somebody at work, or you put the word out, and it was a referral. And most of my early business in the 80s was all referred, mostly. Bruce and I are social people, and we'd go to the lawyers' Christmas parties, and we'd throw a few parties ourselves, and break bread with people, and make friends with the divorce lawyers, so they send you the criminal cases. Make friends with the
right.
corporate folks, and they'll send you the PI cases, and that's what we did. That's how we built our foundations. Sure, we both do. This is in a way advertising, what we're doing right here now. We're not running an ad, but yeah, we give out our cell phone number, but it's kind of our phone number rather than 111-666-HURT.
The one that I've seen most recently is all the same numbers. It's like 404 1111111. So it's just easy to remember, I suppose.
And those are expensive to get. How do I know? I've looked into it. It's like I've done radio advertising, which is more branding. It's a little bit of a subtle distinction. Those are expensive numbers to get, and it's not an easy thing to procure.
I think
people are spending a fortune, and they're marketing the phone number.
I think the thing that most consumers and most perhaps of our listeners who are going to look at a lawyer, they're going to go to the internet. That's where you go for everything pretty much. You're going to go to the lawyer Amazon, the functional equivalent, and you're going to see 20 lawyers that do your area law, if not 200 lawyers of your question, and whoever's at the top, they weren't put at the top of the page by Google or FindLaw because they're the best. They just paid the most to get to the top.
As somebody who has a presence on the internet and you want to be seen because the content you're providing to the world is relevant to this person's search. So I'm aware of these things. I don't think the consuming public is as aware of it. And I know this just from family members because they'll do searches and click on the first thing they see very often, which if you look at the top, it says sponsored, it says ad. What it means is that people are spending money just to be the first thing that comes up when you search for plumber, locksmith, lawyer, whatever it is, right? If nothing else, scroll past that. When you're doing a search on your phone or on the computer at home, scroll past all those sponsored links, because the first one that is not a paid ad, the first one is not a sponsored link, is going to be something that the algorithms of Google or whatever search engine you're using have identified as being the thing that is the highest quality that's responsive to the thing you're searching for. And that's one way that you say, all right, I'm not going to just be taken in by the first thing that pops up. I might have to go to page 2, right? Whoever looks on page 2, And so at least get past the ones that the only reason people are there are that they're paid. You want to hear something horrible? There are big law firms out there, and you know them if you've ever turned on your television. Of course, during political ad season, we don't see anything other than political ads, but if you ever turn on your television, you know who these big spenders are on lawyer ads. They will buy up Ray Giudice's name, Bruce Hagen's name,
yes,
every other lawyer's name. So you could search for me and
still end up
going to come
names,
up.
right.
Their firm is going to pop up before mine will, even when you're searching for me by name. It's a legal, barely legal practice, but also it's one that it just misleads people is the problem.
But one analogies I would like to make is that think about how we now receive our medical care and services. Used to be we had a family doctor. Doctor had treated your mom and your dad and then you, 27 pages of history. Maybe his or her partners knew you too. And they had privileges over at the hospital. And again, I'm trying not to be a, get off my yard guy. But now it's corporate medicine. Does anybody really think they're being better served by corporate medicine? Well, there's not a whole lot difference in, now a law firm that's got 800 offices doing, auto wreck cases. Well, come on. There's not enough good personal injury lawyers in the country to fully staff 800 or however many hundred offices. It's just not. And they're not filing lawsuits on the good cases. They're settling them as quickly as they can to cover the overhead. It's a never-ending shoveling of coal into this locomotive, and the more cars and boxcars you put on the locomotive, the more coal you got to shovel into that engine.
And it's almost exclusively personal injury lawyers that are doing the advertising. To some extent, you see bankruptcy, you see divorce. Occasionally, you might see a criminal law thing, but it's usually pretty limited, and it's not much. But it's the personal injury field really where there's the most. Instagram and social media has changed the game too, because it's so easy to create a perception of yourself without there being anything to it. And again, another thing, I don't know how much the average consumer is aware of this sort of thing, but you can buy followers for your social media presence. And Instagram can see through that, but the public doesn't. And so there's one lawyer in particular that I know of, and he's got a ton of content he puts out there on Instagram. And you look at it's like 1.2 million followers. Like, how does...
why?
And why? How would you get, you're 28 years old, 30, you've been doing this a short time, you haven't tried a case, I know that, and you've got 1.5 million followers because you've got like cute TikTok-y sort of things here and a little bit of content, and you start digging below the surface and you realize, oh, these are bought and paid for. And this knowledge that's being dropped on people is flashy, but it lacks any substance or meaning or value. But to somebody looking at it, it's like, oh, that guy has 1.5 million followers. I'm going to follow him. He must be something. You become a law influencer, which is, again, and it sounds like a get off my lawn sort of thing. That's not the same as like, who is the best lawyer to represent me? If I develop a specific type of, I don't know, inner ear cancer, I'm going to want to know who is the doctor in the world that is the specialist in inner ear cancer so I can go get treatment from that person. I don't want the guy who, has flashy TikToks and a picture of his plane to then say like, yeah, that's the guy I want because look at his really,
he's got to be great with that big plane.
Look at he's great. He's TikToking and he's doing like a really funny dance. He must be cool and great. I'm gonna hire him. I want the guy who has done this procedure 10,000 times
and has experience.
And by the way, teaches it, has done it successfully, has a track record of doing it, and is still doing it.